afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see all of you. Welcome to the Science and Innovation panel. So I'm going to kind of give a little introduction, if it is. My name is Ed Lehrburger. I'm with Pure Vision Technology, and we're located in Fort Lupton, Colorado, about 40 miles from here. And we've been processing biomass for over 20 years, and we convert it into lignin and sugars and pulp and fiber. And we started getting into the hemp business of processing hemp after it was legalized. And I'm honored to host this panel, and we have some really exciting things going on in our industry. One of the challenges is science and innovation is needed to commercialize converting hemp into products on a global scale. We all know the hemp plant has amazing qualities. It's one of the most amazing plants on the planet for its fiber, for its, oh, good to see you. All right. For its seeds, for its flour, and for so many things that we can use and utilize the hemp plant for. So part of the challenge is, now that it's legal in some states, we want to politically legalize it nationally, and then we'll need to work together with different technologies to actually bring growing, harvesting, processing hemp to a place where it is sustainable. So in the business that I've been in, which is known as biorefining, taking corn stalks and wheat straw and wood and converting those into industrial raw materials to make fuels and chemicals, after 20 years, it has failed. No company has commercialized that. The exception is we've taken corn and wheat and food and made ethanol out of it. We've never believed in that. That's not the real deal. The real deal is taking biomass, agricultural residues, and making chemicals and consumer products from these and not compete with food. So this requires a lot of science and a lot of innovation. So we have a great panel here, and I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves and talk about what they do. And Bob is really excited, and he asked to start this off. So, oh, okay. I asked him if he would start it off, and he said he would. Did we get this work?
No,
oh, all right. How about this? Is it going to work later?
No, somebody went out.
Okay, great. If it's okay with you, Bob, I'm going to ask Trey to start. And I've known Trey, it's been about 9 months, and I went to his booth and we talked in Kentucky, and Trey is really involved in innovation. He's a very smart guy. He's got a staff of engineers, and they've been able to take hemp and flax and canaf and other biomass and make products and bring them to market. So it's an honor. Trey, if you will.
Hello. Thank you. That was a great introduction, a lot to live up to. As he said, my name is Trey Riddle, the CEO and founder of SunStrand. And SunStrand is a materials company. We just happen to deal in natural or biomaterials, predominantly for structural and rigid applications. Our main focus is in polymer composites, plastics, and technical nonwovens. And it's been a great joy to be able to bring hemp into our repertoire, which was just with the onset of the legalization. We've been in the space, as Ed mentioned, we started with bamboo first, and we have some very novel processes for extracting bamboo fiber. And then we're able to bring on canaf and flax and now hemp. All three of those we do process on the same line. The plants are very similar in their biology and are compatible with many of the same upstream manufacturing processes. The bamboo is totally unique. I don't know how long I'm supposed to go on here. I could do a while. Okay. Okay. So I think there's really two sides. We're in Louisville, Kentucky. Yep. I've got to come down for the Derby. Check us out. We're close. I guess there's kind of two sides to the coin for our business model. And I think, Ed's quite right. We do need some strong innovation and technological developments around hemp to really propel it. But there are other places, I don't know if I'd say it's low-hanging fruit, but there's certainly existing technologies that will work quite well for getting hemp into the marketplace. And I think we actually have the duality in that we exist in both spaces. So we have a primary production methodology, which you would refer to as decortication, separation of the fiber and the hurd, and cleaning to the fiber to the point where it's compatible with other processes, and similarly cleaning the herd so it's compatible with its markets. And that's great, and there's some value there, although we're really talking about competing with commodities, so there's not a lot of value there. The key is how do we bring more value to it? And while I do believe that primary processing like that, there is a very profitable potential business model there. There's an even better one when we start talking about value adds. And for us, value adds doesn't necessarily mean vertical integration. We're not going to install our own plastic injection assembly line or our own textile nonwoven line. What we're going to do is we're going to make our materials better. So we spent some of our original innovation several years ago with bamboo was around surface treatments and functionalization of the fiber. And what that does is makes it more compatible with plastic so that the end part that you make out of it performs better. And in that, we can actually see natural fibers like hemp becoming closer to being a replacement for things like glass fiber and carbon fiber. I don't know if you realize this, but hemp, as well as many other biomaterials, is almost half the density of glass fiber and is less dense than carbon fiber. So there are real opportunities in industry to utilize these materials, assuming that they are compatible with the upstream manufacturing processes. We bring on the innovations that allow better bonding and reduce water absorption. Now we've got a real material that can actually get into almost every place of your everyday life. And so I guess my point is there's sort of two sides of the coin. We need to push them both forward in parallel in order to really make this happen.
Hello. Okay. Rick Becks is going to tell us about some of the great innovation that his company is doing. So, Rick, take it away.
Yes, thanks. My name is Rich Becks, and I am the CEO and founder of Chimney Rock Farms. It's a 60-acre research and development farm in Durango, near Durango in Bayfield, Colorado. And I'm actually a supply chain and a manufacturing and a software guy for many, many years. And a few years ago, I decided to buy an organic farm. About the same time the movie I Bought a Zoo came out, and I got really terrified after I saw that movie. And I learned the saying, how to make a small fortune in farming is to start with a large fortune. And so, so I'm here sort of representing the farmer. And what I'd like to talk about as we get deeper into this is how technology and innovation can play a new role in terms of reinvigorating the whole farm economy. So what we do is we try to look for problems that farmers have. And the biggest problem we had, like 2 years ago was how to grow at 6,500 feet elevation and compete. And so we created these passive solar greenhouses that didn't require any fossil fuels at all. And even still, we were competitive and we were heroes in the economy, but we weren't making a lot of money because there's not a lot of margin in food. The food business is a scale business. You have got to be very, very big if you're going to compete in that market. So I discovered that. Hemp came along, and it was my gift, but I think it's a gift to all farmers because it is going to offer us the opportunity to rethink agriculture and to see how we do this, because it has the margin in it now to fund innovation. And it will allow us to do interesting things like create passive solar greenhouses, do no-till agriculture, all kinds of things that ordinarily you would rule it out because the economics just don't seem to make as much sense. But this crop can afford us some latitude to make a bridge into another model. And part of that model, I believe, is sort of relocalizing farming and agriculture, closer to where people live. So that's my thing.
You want to tell where your farm is?
Durango, near Bayfield, Colorado. So it's about 8.5 hours from here.
No, we're not going
Okay, so we're not going to do this, right?
Well, we're not going to do it visually.
Okay, all right. We're going to wing it. All right.
Which is what I like to do anyway, but there are certain pictures I'll try to turn it around and show you at some point some of the things.
Okay.
So this is a section on technology. Let me turn that on so I actually record something for a change. It's a miracle I actually remembered to do something. I'm one of these people with ultra short-term memory defects. And what I want to talk about today, if I can give a little bit of time here, how much time do you want? So I know how much I got to squeeze this down. All right, so I want to talk about a couple of different technologies and how we can integrate those technologies to create change in a very novel way. So we're all familiar with the endocannabinoid system. Is there anybody in this room who's not? I don't think so. I would hope not. Unlike when I give talks to doctors, which I don't bother to do anymore because they're too stupid for the most part. But I made an exception. In 2 weeks, I'm going to Dubai because they're non-American doctors, and I figure maybe there's hope that somebody can listen to something that they don't know and be open-minded enough to, at least investigate. And it's a real problem. It blows my mind how closed-minded our so-called medical community is. And what I want to talk about at first is really the biology of life, the physics of life. And it's my belief that I know unique things about what life is. And it's, to me, rather tragic that our medical professions have no interest in learning what life is. And, think about it. Would you bring your car to a mechanic who doesn't know how a car works? And yet we go to doctors all the time who don't know how we work. And all they do is they've tried to reduce medicine down to basically a computer program, and they have to go by that program. There's no art to medicine because otherwise they're liable for lawsuits. So they gotta, they toe a line, and I believe it goes beyond that. Actually, we've selected for a certain type of people. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But at this point, what I'd like to say, I guess, is that the most fundamental aspects of physics tells us that flowing energy creates organization. And this organization can occur in all different ways that are counterintuitive. And I had a little toy that I had brought with me to Colorado to bring here, but of course I forgot that this morning along with my wallet. And I was going to make a video of it, but the presentation I put together, I just got together this morning, so I never got to making the movie of the toy that I want to show you. But in any event, flowing energy organizes matter. And when matter is organized by flowing energy, it always oscillates. And we see that in our lives all the time. You breathe in, you breathe out, you go to sleep, you're awake, you have menstrual cycles, we have the circadian rhythms. We are nothing but really, I call it a dynamic fractal. A regular fractal is a rigid algorithm. So the same exact thing happens as you reiterate it, and you can scope in and look again, and you keep finding the same thing. So what I'm talking about is rather than having a rigid algorithm, having a creative algorithm between each reiteration. And that's what life is. And because flowing energy organizes matter, there was inorganic matter that became organized that eventually led in a very comprehensive way, and I can't talk about it all now. I only got 10 minutes, and I do this for days or weeks or months, as some of my students know, when I had students. So anyway, this flowing energy will organize matter in a way that creates oscillations. And these oscillations are fundamental, and they permeate all levels of scale, not only within us, but in our environment, seasons, and everywhere else. Our financial institutions are all what we call flow-dependent structures. Think of the whirlpool when you drain your tub. You get that little whirlpool towards the end there. And as long as gravity is there, that whirlpool spontaneously forms. That whirlpool is a flow-dependent structure. As soon as the flow goes, you have water with no structure. All right? And similarly, that occurs on all sorts of levels throughout us, chemically, and it occurs throughout our environment and our financial systems, our political systems, our economic systems. They're all flow dependent. If the economy doesn't flow, there is no economy.
all right? So everything has been a continuous pyramiding of biochemical complexity based on the fact, and it is a fact, that flowing energy organizes matter. And this was pioneered, he created the whole field. The year I was born, 1947, Ilya Prigogine created a new field, far from equilibrium thermodynamics, which is very different than regular thermodynamics, flow of energy. Regular thermodynamics says life can't exist, and what Prigogine didn't like that because there are so many phenomena around us. Nothing that we do is in equilibrium, really. Everything's about flow, and that's the heart of what I'm talking about, flow. So he created the new field, he got a Nobel Prize for it, and he was one of the smartest people that ever lived. And what I want to do as this talk progresses is I want to introduce you to a man I recently met who I believe is the smartest man alive today, and how the work that he has done will change our whole entire future over the next 10 years. We're going to see this starting to happen. And I think it's important for us because the cannabis community, whether you're talking about pot or hemp, it's all the same thing. It's just BS, the strain difference, because the world is run by idiots. It's sad but true. You have to understand that the cannabinoid system, in terms of receptors, first appeared with vertebrates. And as you go up the evolutionary scale with man's brain as the most complex thing we know, you had a continuous increase in cannabinoid receptor and cannabinoid activity. So that your endocannabinoid system, cannabis from within, is the #1 neurotransmitter system in your brain. And we don't teach it in medical school. 13% of the medical schools in the country, that's an interesting thing, mention the word endocannabinoid. That's largely the extent that 13% get that level of education. They also manage, because we have good schools, they also get 1 day or 1 lecture on nutrition. So they really know how to integrate things properly and advisors. So obviously I'm not a big fan of the pharmaceutical industry, and I think the revolution that we're seeing with the cannabis now is very, very special because this evolutionary process that I've been talking about, your endocannabinoid system regulates everything in your body from conception until death. Your immune system, digestive, cardiovascular, endocrine, blah, 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 everything. We don't teach it in medical school. It's in mother's milk. Psychoactive cannabinoids are in mother's milk. So the first thing a mother does is get the kid a little high. And mammals are mammals because of what? Because they have mammary glands, right? So nature selected for mammary glands because it's going to increase the survival of the children. And they put pot in it. And our government says, it's illegal. Should we arrest nursing mothers? Or should we just arrest all women for walking around with paraphernalia? That's the idiocy. That's the idiocy that we're dealing with, all right? And since we have this progression of cannabinoid activity, what is an undeniable truth is that half the population for any phenotype, because remember it controls everything, half the population will be lower than average and half will be higher. Are there consequences to that? I believe yes. I believe that the world is currently run by what I call the Neanderthals of modern man. The cannabinoid deficient people, I call them blips, backward-looking people. Look at the characteristics of being unhigh. Uptight, angry, nervous, fearful. Why is that? Because they don't make enough pot to adapt to change. And what's evolution select for? Adaptation. So these are the primitive people evolutionarily, and because of their fears and their aggression and their need to control. You see, if you control everything, then you have no change. And if you have no cannabinoids, then you live under the illusion, if I could only control things better. And that's the modus operandi of that Neanderthal population that happens to run the world. Because the world has changed so much that whereas that was appropriate in the sense that you could organize societies and blah, 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 now we need to reorganize societies. We need a far from equilibrium phase change. And one of the things that happens when you have far from equilibrium phase changes is that all the variables fluctuate and go crazy. And that's what we're seeing now with the weather, with our politics, with our healthcare, our financial situation, the movement of people, all of the variables of man's interface with his environment is now starting to go crazy. And what happens after that happens is a new pattern emerges, okay? So much for cannabis and life. But the most important or complementary thing, there's two things. You got to let me, it's so important, you'll see. One is that I met this guy, Brad Sorensen, bradsorensen.com, if you want to look him up. Don't look him up in Google, you won't find it. He has made a number of incredible inventions. The one that's easiest for me to describe because it's, more natural in a sense, is that instead of windmills, he has wind rings. And he's just signed multi-billion-dollar contracts to put these wind rings off the coast of Poland and Holland. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar investments in this new technology that allows them to float. And instead of having a 15% efficiency, these are 50% efficiency. We're talking about a whole new world, because once these things pay for themselves, which is in about 2 years, they will last for 100 to 200 years, which means free energy coming out of them for the next few hundred years. So we're incorporating that into cannabis grows. What we're doing is I'm involved with Phoenix Tears, as well as many other things all around the world, too many things at times, but we're integrating all of these. And part of it's going to be Phoenix Wind, where we're going to have wind energy growing cannabis indoors, basically for free after 2 years. All right, that's still part of the story only. What I'm about to tell you, if I was told this 2 months ago, I would have said bullshit. Impossible. And now, after having spent many hours with this man, I tell you, I absolutely 100% know it's true. And what he can do is he can take seawater and generate hydrogen and oxygen without putting in more energy than he gets out. And I understand the general concept, how I can accept that, whereas before I never even dreamed it was possible. So what he's able to do now is to create a variety of things that are going to change man's future. I believe that our entire future, the future of humanity, is in this man's hands. So one of the things he can do is he can burn water and make clean water. So now we have desalination that's basically self-powered. He has a rocket engine that's being developed that'll go anywhere in the world in 2 hours running on water. So he's eliminated all of the pollution concerns that we have. And the reason I think it's in particular important for us as cannabis and hemp people, don't think of using hemp so much as an energy source, because that's taken care of in a much sounder way. But all the other wonderful things that hemp and cannabis can be used for, yes, I want you to know that we are facing a revolution as profound as when the wall came down, and as profound as when the car engines were developed, and then computers were developed. Now we have clean, non-polluting energy, and a whole new world is going to come. And I'll shut up with that. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. That's science and innovation right there. Too bad we didn't have Brad Sorensen on this panel. Okay, next time. That's right. Okay, our next panelist is similar. He's about energy and creating energy, and hopefully we're going to hear about creating energy with hemp. So our final speaker is David Neisingh. All right, David, take it away.
Yeah, hello. Oh, cool. So I've come to you all the way from Kiev, Ukraine, where I've lived for the last 22 years, and I've been involved with, I own a manufacturing facility, make farm equipment, and we built the first greenfield biomass power plants in Ukraine. And it all pretty much started about 2 years ago when a good friend of mine, his wife, was diagnosed with cancer, and she was already the fifth person, good friend of mine, who I knew in the last 5 years, who went the same medical route. They were diagnosed, and then they were scared the hell out of them, and got them on expensive chemotherapy, radiation, and everything else. And I just seen that I'd seen it happen with my friends, and they sell their houses, their businesses, they die in excruciating pain, and all of them get remissions. All of them, like, come home happy, and you look at them, and the life is sucked out of them. They're a skeleton, and 2-3 months later, it just comes back and wipes them out because they've just done a wonderful job destroying the endocannabinoid system. And so I was worried, and I got on my computer, and I was looking diligently for solutions, and I found cannabinoids and read everything I could. And 2 weeks later, found myself at the conference in Cologne. This was 2 years ago, and since then I've just really walked away from all my other businesses because I just found this is what I want to do. I went out and on my quadricycle and found some wild growing hemp and harvested it and watched Phoenix Tears and made some extracts and brought it to my friend's wife. But by that time it was too late and she's gone. But since then, I've been able to help some people and save them. My partner, a guy that works for him, was diagnosed with 4-stage cancer that metastasized to his lungs, and he was already. We got this extract, and this is someone I know. I've known this guy for years, and he was just sliding downhill. And 2 weeks he went for examination before his 4th round of chemo, and they asked, "What'd you do? Where is it? It's gone." It was after 2 weeks, and of course we had him. He changed his diet and he did some other things, but that's that's pretty amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And so what we did was Ukraine is actually the mother of industrial hemp. The first low THC varieties came out of Ukraine in the 60s and ended up in Europe as USO 31 and Canada and China. But still, it's illegal to do anything with the flower or cannabinoids, and so we organized a farmers co-op in Lithuania with about 30 small farmers, and instead of just going and hiring a combine and going to the large hemp farm and then direct fire drying this product and putting it through a pellet mill. We went the other route. So each of these farms are from 1 to 5 hectares, and a lot of them harvest and plant according to moon cycles, all hand picked and dried, and then we send it to Germany for CO2 extraction. So so we have a lot of this amazing extract, but that's just the first thing that we're doing, and really kind of what I'd like to maybe express to you and whoever's farming hemp or looking to get into it is we really need to get away from the mindset of just taking one commodity off a crop. It's totally absolutely amazing as I study each of the different 4 parts of the plant: the herbs, bast fiber, flower, and grain. These are not just like byproducts or even co-products. When you process into any product, whether it's cellulose or fibers or activated carbon or whatever, you find that it's far superior than its competitor, a plant, and generally a product which is just harvested for that product. So, if you can imagine, you made your money, covered your cost, all your overheads, everything, as in traditional farming with the first crop, whether it's you take the grain or the flour off, and then everything else that you do is absolutely free feedstock. So, if really, I absolutely love what you guys said, and I see what I envision. So what we're working on is different technologies for processing all 4 parts of the plant, cutting edge technologies, starting from harvesting. And what I envision is really this farmer co-op idea where a friend of mine, he's the head of the Canadian Beet Growers Association, and it's a beautiful system. They all own part of a sugar processing mill in the States, and buying 1 share of this factory gives them the right and the opportunity to supply 1 acre of product to the processing plant, and then they all make money in the profit of the company. And so it's not it's not so susceptible to variations of commodity prices. But I think this is the way to do it. Is really to get the scale and everything is in your areas. Just come together and don't and leave nothing to waste. So you started this as far as I'll finish up here real quick as far as energy. So yeah, I built biomass power plants. And I think if you're not very creative, that's probably what you could do with with the herds and the waste product. But it's not the best thing that you can grow. There's a lot of other stuff to burn out there. So that's what we're doing. Thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you. That was good. So we only have a little time left in this science and innovation panel. So before this all happened, we had email exchanges and we had discussions on what should be discussed. So what I'd like to do in the last round of comments is talk about a very, very important topic that we as mankind face, which is carbon sequestration, too much carbon pollution, too much carbon being emitted by the fossil fuels that we're pulling out of the earth. So how can we as hemp entrepreneurs and hemp industry people trying to start a new industry help with this? So Trey, do you want to give a little comment on that? And we'll just go on down the line.
Yeah. Tough questions. Tough thing to analyze, actually. There's a lot of models out there talking about where all these pollutants and carbon come from, and it's actually very challenging to break it down into the manufacturing processes. I guess I'll speak from my industry segment in particular briefly. One of the big objectives for us is to displace or supplant plastics and glass fiber and with natural materials. And people always look, well, isn't glass fiber natural? Well, yeah, we got a hell of a lot of it in sand, you're right, but it takes a ginormous amount of energy to get that glass fiber produced, and it is in every place of your life that you don't even know. And so we did this back of the envelope analysis. I had one of my guys who are smarter than me. I said, when we build our big major industrial facility and we process 44 million pounds of straw a year, how much carbon, how much CO2 are we going to displace? And his answer was 70 million pounds, because between the plant growth cycle sequestration, and then we put that sequestered again into the rigid part or the plastic or whatever, and then ultimately in the displacement of a glass fiber and the high energy production of that, and then also of the high energy production of polymer as well. So it's very challenging to do those types of analysis, and one thing I would like to put forth from innovation would be life cycle analysis. Is something very important. I think that we should all be looking to do that type of analysis. It's not terribly common yet. I think it will become a lot more important to society as we go forward. Probably see some regulatory things around it in the future as well. But when you do that type of analysis, these are types of conclusions you can come to, and you can see that can be very impactful. 70 million pounds a year, I guess, isn't as much as a coal plant or something, but it's a lot, and that's just us in one company. So
this is a topic that is very close to what we do and what our mission really is, and that is that we're really concerned about climate change. I don't know a farmer who doesn't care about the climate, and you talk to the old timers and they'll tell you it's different. It is really different, and we can't put our finger on it, but it's different. So the bottom line is that what we see is hemp as a way to sequester carbon. It captures 4 times more carbon than a tree. So I can plant an orchard tree, or I can plant hemp, and I get 4 times the sequestration. The second thing is that if you can do no-till agriculture, you are locking that carbon back into the soil. Now, no-till is a lot harder than conventional agriculture, but it can be done. And so that's what it's like putting money into the bank. The soil gets better. You take carbon out of the air. And my feeling is the government eventually is going to pay farmers to grow hemp, because we're going to get to the point where we have that last solution, the geoengineering solution, and it's going to be so scary, we're going to say, Why don't we just take marginal land and plant as much hemp as we possibly can? There are so many uses for this plant that I think we're going to get paid to grow hemp just for carbon reasons.
I have to tell you another Brad story to answer this question this time. What he's done is a pilot plant going in Germany now where they take the exhaust from a coal plant, because to me the idea of clean coal always seemed absolutely absurd because you're making all the CO2. So what they're doing is they first are scrubbing the heavy metals out, which can then be sold, and then they take the CO2-laden air, and what they're doing is they pass it into a hermetically sealed greenhouse where the plants are on tracks that move through the greenhouse. The CO2 level in there is so high that you couldn't be in there, you wouldn't live, but also insects don't live. So essentially what he winds up doing by the time the plants come out the other side is he's turned coal exhaust into organic food and oxygen.
Okay. All right. We're out of time, folks. But on a final note, we'll just give one last thought here. What our company has been trying to do is turn biomass, and now we're working with hemp, into sugars and lignin and pulp. And the pulp can be converted into alpha cellulose and dissolving pulps. And the sugars can be fermented into many chemicals and fuels. And the lignin can be converted into graphene and many new materials that we can build solar collectors and batteries. So we've got a technology now that can replace oil refineries. So be involved, stay connected. When you're involved in companies, align yourself with companies that are on the cutting edge of science and innovation. And on that note, thank you all very much for attending this session.